Hello and welcome. My name's Justin McClanahan. Today we're going to be building the box and dragon scale from the 90s cartoon Dragon Tales. Let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, I want to get this resin piece poured so it has time to cure and I can hopefully get at least a rough shape before we get on to the main piece of this project. But I found this mold for a tray, and I did this test piece here just to test out colors and to see exactly what I'm working with here, and I think it'll work perfect for the main scale thing I'm trying to make here. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna pour the roughly the same colors. This is pretty much what I'm going for, this pink and blue. I might do a lighter shade and then, you know, get rid of some of this as I shape it. So I think it'll work out just fine. So I'm just gonna throw on a quick time lapse to get this poured out, and then I'll come back and we'll get started with my actual thoughts about this project. Alright, so we are back. Here's the scale. I finished it pretty much completely. I needed to at least have the size reference so I know I'm making the box, which is the main portion of this project, the right size to be able to fit this properly and look correct to the proportions from the TV show. You can see it turned out real nice. Super happy with it. Initially it was a tad bit thinner, but it was a little too transparent for my liking, so I went ahead and laid a slightly more opaque, just a thin layer on the back, and I just had to do a quick extra little buff on the edge and everything. But since this is pretty self-explanatory, you know, I just poured a thing of resin. I looked at the picture, a couple of references from the TV show, and figured out the fade of to the pink, a little bit of purple, and to the blue. And then I just simply shaped it out and then wet sanding and polishing, working through the grits, you know what I mean. The main part of this project is going to be the box that it contains it. And I actually went ahead and already worked out my little template here. This will be perfect, and this is the main portion that I need. I'm going to be using this harder foam core. I've never used like any stuff like this before. Usually if I'm doing something like this, I would make it like more of a replica rather than like a prop or something, but I figured, you know, why not, let's try something new. So I'm going to be using this foam core for the main part of the box, and then there's like brass pieces. Like I would normally make this out of wood and brass and make it all, I'm going to make it hinge properly, but I'm going to be using like plastic hinges and stuff just to make it lightweight and just, you know, I'm not really going for that super realistic, even though I am going to paint it and make it look real nice at the end. But the brass details, I'm going to be using like this softer foam stuff I have. I think it'll look nice. The inside is like a purple velvet type stuff, so I got some of that. I think that'll work out really well for that. The leftover I had when I was pouring this, I dyed them with the pink. I made it. Got this little mold. It has a bunch of different gemstones on it, and I've been doing these rectangular ones. I need a couple more of these red gems, and I'm gonna have to actually round them off a little bit because in the references they're more of like an oval shape, but I think these will work out well, and they might be a little too big. I'm not really sure. I have to wait till we figure everything else out to make sure that these are the right size and everything, but I still need to pour a couple more of those, so I'll show you that. Like again, simple enough. I just pour a resin into here, let it set overnight, and just pop them out, and I'll have to do a little bit of shaping and stuff to those. Now that we've got that my whole game plan kind of figured out, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on a time lapse and get a little bit wider shot of my workspace going on here. And I'm just gonna start cutting this box out and get it roughly shaped together. I will probably just gonna super glue everything together because I have it. It'll dry fast. I have the accelerant spray to make it dry immediately. Let's get started. All right, we got our main boxes glued together a little bit here. There is these weird gaps on the edges, but I'm not really worried about it because we're gonna be covering it anyway. And then I also went ahead and cut out our main foam pieces for the sides. We'll do the tops as well, but I'll do that last. These side pieces have some like silhouettes of dragons on them, and then a couple of them are a little bit more plain with a little ornate things on there. So I'm gonna have to look at my references and I'm just gonna sketch onto these foam pieces those little elements, and then I'll have to cut all that stuff out before we glue it to these main boxes. I also wanna clean up the bottoms of these boxes. There's just some glue that got out, and I just wanna try and make these flat. So when we put this all together at the very end, it all comes together really nice. Like right now, there's all these weird gaps and stuff. I'm gonna try and make everything as nice as I can. First things first is we're gonna sand the edges of these boxes and try and make them nice and flat so that we can get these on properly, so that they lay out nice and everything. And then we'll start sketching all the little extra bits and bobs for these and then we can cut out those little designs and stuff. So let's get to that. So we got this thing all glued together. I spent some time this week during my work week just layering some glue on the seams and just places where it really needs it to help hide the seams for one, and two, to make sure this is all stuck together really well. I've never really messed with like this foam stuff, and I've had some issues, but it's coming together fairly well. Actually even got the little like hook piece in here. I actually had something that was perfect and it fit in there really well. I'll just have to glue it in place a little bit. We'll do that later. Right now I want to go outside and put just a quick probably a couple coats of a primer on this, just so I have a nice base color that everything's uniform. I can kind of look at everything after that point and see if, you know, I know I'm gonna have to sand some of it, but I can find other little things and fine tune some stuff. And I want to be able to put a coat on the inside as well. The bottom's going to be covered with the purple foam thing that actually holds the scale. So I'm not too worried about that, but I will put it around the edge just to make it all nice and even. And then we'll come back and then we'll do some quick scuffing. And then I think from there, we might be okay. All right, so that didn't go super well. It was a little colder than I expected, but I got something on here. I can kind of see some things going on. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a razor blade and try to clean up some of these edges and stuff. And then after that, I'm gonna take some sandpaper and see how this sands. Again, I'm not like a foam type person. I don't really know how this stuff works using different things. So I'm just gonna see what happens and you're gonna see it. So let's do it. So we got everything sanded pretty well. That actually worked better than I was expecting. There's quite a bit of residue and stuff on here. I am just gonna, I think, just coat everything with a coat of acrylic paint, black, and just get a coat of something on here, since that primer I sprayed on here didn't do quite what I was wanting. I think from there, since we are gonna be painting quite a bit on here, the background, what is white now, is gonna be like a wood grain, and then what is black is gonna be like a bronze color I have. So I'm gonna start just doing the backgrounds, and it's gonna be a textured like wood grain anyway. I'm gonna just get it thick, so I don't really need to do anything with the background. But again, I'm gonna coat everything, and I might do a little bit of extra sanding again before I do the final bronze to make that look really nice as possible. Right now, I'm just gonna squirt out some of this black and just start slathering it on all of this stuff. I am gonna coat the inside of the top really well, and then just like the upper lip of the bottom, since the bottom's gonna get the purple thing that's gonna actually hold the scale itself. Alright, so what I'm gonna do now is give this another quick sand on some of these corners, just because a few things popped up. Some of these glue edges just aren't going away like I want. So I'm gonna sand these edges just a little bit again one more time. I did also start to put a little hinge on the back of this. I'm just gonna insert a little, I think, carbon fiber rod. It's just like a little plastic rod, and that'll allow this to open and shut. I might have to cut a little bit more out of this, but this should open and close just fine with that. And then I did go ahead and cut a little tab for the front to go onto the little lock piece that keeps it closed. Enough, you know, I'm not gonna attach a lock, make a lock or anything, but I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna start going in the background first, because that can be messy and whatever, and if it gets over what's supposed to be bronze, that's okay, because the sign paint that I'm using for that will go straight over that fine, and I know I'm gonna have to be pretty careful running the edges along everything. It's gonna be kind of a pain, but I'm pretty aware. That's been in the back of my mind this whole project, that's gonna be one of the little detail things I'm gonna have to try and make nice as possible. So my camera died there for a little bit, but I ended up going over and I got a nice coat of brown where the wood is gonna be on the inside and the outside. And I did go ahead and just put a coat of yellow on all the bronze areas, just to give it a light tint, just in case this paint doesn't, I'm pretty sure this is really thick and it's gonna cover anyway, but just in case. And it showed me that it's gonna be quite a pain to try and get this really nice around everything, so I'm definitely gonna have to go back and forth a little bit. But also, I think I'm gonna do the opposite of what I said. I think I'm gonna do the bronze first. This paint actually has quite a little bit of time to dry, so I'm gonna do that and let it dry for fairly early in the morning. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'll come back later and I'm gonna try and be as clean as I can with the lines along the edges and everything to make it as easy as possible for when I go back into the wood. And I'm gonna make the wood, I'm gonna add another like tannish yellow coat on top of the brown and black here to bring it a little bit lighter, because in the reference it's pretty almost the same tone of browns they use in the cartoons. So I'm gonna make this a lighter to match more closer to the bronze color that's gonna be going on here. And I think putting the bronze on first will help with that and make sure I don't go too light or leave it too dark or whatever. I mean, either way, as long as it looks like a decent medium toned wood, it'll be fine. So right now we're gonna hop into doing some of this bronze work. I might bring you in a little bit closer to show you what I'm going through trying to get these really tight, clean lines on the insides and stuff. Pretty happy with how everything came out. As you saw, I did the light tan, and I really took my time with that, and I think that worked out just fine for what I'm looking for. And then I went ahead and made a darker brown, like a wash, and went over top of that, and I added a little bit more dimension into that brown area. And then I did a quick rub on all the bronze stuff just to muddy it down just a little bit, just so it's not super bold and looks new. It's coming together really well. The final couple things, I'm gonna let this dry overnight just so it's super cured. And then I'm gonna put a clear coat on everything inside out of this whole box, and then we can start to figure out the little piece that's gonna actually hold the scale inside the block, and that shouldn't take too long. And then we'll just drape over some of this purple felt, and that'll be one of the final things. And then I have to glue a couple of the gemstones on the outside, and that'll be the actual final thing after I clear coat it. Next thing you'll see is me throw in some clear on this, and then we'll figure out the inside of how to hold the scale in here. So I decided to actually do this while this is drying. It's not really tacky or anything. I just want to let it be able to cure properly before I coat it in clear. It's fine to work with. I saved all these little scrap pieces, and what I'm gonna do now is just kind of fill in this base a little bit and try to form some sort of something close that it will hold the scale in place. Okay, so with that little test there, I'm gonna have to put it on quite a bit of an angle, which is fine. It'll actually show more of the front and actually probably work out better, but it's just good to know. I have one layer in the bottom just so this isn't sitting on there, and it has something soft to kind of fit onto. I have some of these bigger pieces, and I'm just gonna simply fit this. Okay, I like where it's at right there. Has a nice little angle on it, so when you open it you'll really see everything, which is nice. I'm super happy with that. I'm actually gonna mark it first, and I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna trim just a little off of it because I don't want it to ride up on the edge here as much as that is right now. I want it to be down a little bit, and then we can kind of fluff the felt once we put that on there and just kind of make it look a little bit nicer from there. So, and none of this is precise. I'm not too worried about it. I just want to get something in there. All right, now I'm just gonna slightly tack these pieces into place just so they don't move around or nothing. So now what I did was create another little piece that creates that platform there, which again will just be able to fluff the felt on top of that. So we'll glue that piece in and then we'll do a couple pieces on the side just so it holds it, so it's doesn't move around like that. It'll hold it in nice and solid. So we'll create a couple side pieces after we glue this little piece in, back piece in. Now we're gonna let this dry completely, and then like I said, we'll come back and then we'll clear coat it. We'll do the final felt on the inside here. That whole thing turned out great. You can see it's a nice little pocket in there, and this slides in nice and tight. So with the felt it'll be super nice and snug. I'll probably have to finagle it a little bit so it's not too tight. This is foam, so it does give a little bit, so I think it'll be fine. We're just gonna let this sit. The next thing you'll see is me spraying some clear coat, and then we'll come back for the felt. All right, so I was gonna wait and spray. It's warm, but it's still too cold. It's like 55, which isn't good enough. So I actually already coated the inside. You can kind of see it's still a little wet in the corners there with this Gamvar satin clear, like brush on clear that I have, that I usually put on like nice paintings that I do on like a canvas or whatever. And I think I'm just gonna put a coat of that on this whole thing and call that coated and cleared, and that'll allow me to do it without really having to worry about going outside and worrying about ruining this or anything crazy that might happen. So we're gonna do that. Hopefully this will dry enough overnight that tomorrow we can do the final little touches on everything else. We're gonna let this dry overnight and then some final details. All right, we're coming up to the final couple things here. As you saw, I created this nice little pocket that this fits in really well. You know, it's not going nowhere. You can kind of see it there. So what I'm gonna do is measure it from side to side. I'm gonna go just a little bit wider than the pocket, so it curls around the sides just a little bit rather than worrying about creating side pieces for it. All right, now we're gonna sandwich the scale in there and just kind of shove this down there and see what happens. Okay, now we're gonna fold over the edges, but I want to keep it, I want to leave a little extra so it's fluffed up and stuff. We're still gonna add another layer on top of this, but I wanted to get the pocket itself covered fairly nice before we get to the top section. That'll really make it look really nice. We're gonna go about there, and then we'll trim all of this off. And this back portion is fine. We'll fluff it up a little bit, but there's plenty of room back there. Just gonna take some glue and just kind of tack it in place with the glue. Okay, so now we're gonna tack a little bit of where the pocket comes in, just so it doesn't move around when you take the scale in and out. So okay, so now what we're gonna do is gonna measure slightly bigger than the opening here, and then we'll have to make a slit where the hole is, and then we'll do some folding to make that look nice. Okay, so what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tag the front end first and make that look nice, and then I'll work my way around the corners a little bit, about halfway up, and then I'll figure out where my slot is, and that should be able to give me enough room to figure out that, and then I'll be able to glue in the rest of the back pieces. All right, so there we have it. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. You know, working with foam is definitely a weird thing. I don't know, again, I don't know if I would do it again. If I did this again, I wouldn't do it this way. I would probably do it more realistic. I would actually use wood and like a brass sheet metal and cut all this stuff out, which would probably take a while, but honestly, as long as this took, it'd probably take about the same amount of time, I feel. So who knows, maybe we'll visit again. I'm definitely gonna make more scales to sell as individual pieces, but to do the box again is, you know, especially in this foam, is just, it was quite a bit of work. But like I said, I'm gonna be making more scales. I'll sell them on their own, you know, I'll package them in nice and like paper and twine or something like that. Maybe I'll make a simple little stand to be able to hold it up, so it's more than just like a flat piece, but something a lot more simple than this that I can knock out quite a few of them at a time. If you want to follow along to things like this on a more regular basis, I post daily on my Facebook and Instagram. You can check those out. I'll occasionally make a short for a couple of different video things over on TikTok as well. I've been slowly trying to grow that platform a little bit as well. But if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up. It really helps. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. I'm always over here just trying to be creative, doing new things, art, home decor, props. Who knows? I'll see you on the next one.